Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Anith Pillai. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited about this.
Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time. I have not interviewed an optometrist yet, so you're my first.
Well, I hope this doesn't turn you off.
I love it. I love it. So tell me, I was looking at your history, and you started out in math and science, and you ended up, and then biology, and now you're an optometrist. So tell me about your kind of your. I'd love to hear about your path to how you got to where you are.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of optometrists, a lot of eye doctors kind of get into the field because they knew that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to get into medicine. Their parents were into it. Uh, Mine was the complete opposite of that. I went to a math and science program after high school, so very much catering. I mean, not to say that a lot of them didn't go into medicine, but I was really on the math and science program portion of where I was thinking I was going to be an engineer. So like from age 15 to 16, that's where I thought I was going to do, like electrical engineering, computer engineering. For two reasons. Number one, I did find it interesting at that age, but also my parents, they were uh, they were born in India, so they come to the U.S. and their dream is that their kids become doctors. It's just the
Sure.
nature of how it works, right? Now, doctors and engineers is okay, but back then it was you got to be a doctor. So and my older brother is a doctor as well. He went down that field, so it was yep. You got to do this. So as a 12, 13-year-old kid, I was like, yep, I want to do exactly the opposite of that. Like I don't want to do anything that my parents want me to do. So I found out what else, anything but medicine, even if I had an interest into, I wanted to do something different. But I did have an interest in physics and computer engineering as a young kid. And I got into college. That was my major. I was an electrical engineering major for freshman and sophomore year. It's a big investment. And I think after my sophomore year, I had an internship with the company, big oil and gas company, especially here in Houston, Schlumberger. Not to denigrate
Wow.
Schlumberger, but when I did
Yeah.
that internship, I just realized this probably isn't what I want to spend my life doing. And I happened to be working at an optometry office at the time when I was in college, and my older brother, who was a physician, said, "Hey, maybe consider that." My best friend was going the pharmacy route. He said, "Hey, why don't you do pharmacy with me? And we can just be best friends doing the same major." And I was like, "Okay, all right, that seems interesting." But my brother was the first one to bring optometry uh, to like bring it into the fold because I never really thought about it, which is funny because we were both fairly my fairly myopic and we had a good relationship with our optometrist. I just never thought about it, even though I was working there. So then I started asking more questions to my boss, who is the optometrist, and getting more of a feel into it. And I got more of an interest into that than pharmacy because pharmacy at that time for me was I want to do it because okay, decent living, good lifestyle. My friend is doing optometry. I had not too much experience outside of my job, but what I did in my job I liked, and then I
Hmm.
also good lifestyle, etc. And then as I talked to my boss, who was an optometrist, I liked it more. But it wasn't a passion by any. Uh, so I decided, and I didn't want to do like family practice or be a pediatrician or a cardiologist. So my brother's a physician who does family practice. I didn't want to do that for the simple fact that I was still rebellious against my parents, right? Even as an 18-year-old in college, I definitely didn't want to do that. But also, I just knew, and my brother even told me, like, if you're going this route into medicine, regardless of whether it's pharmacy, optometry, medicine, I mean, you got to have a passion.
Hmm.
And I didn't have a passion for that for sure. I at least had an interest into optometry. And I kind of tells people now, and especially students that come to our practice, like, I kind of picked it randomly, and I feel so blessed. I feel so blessed because of how randomly I picked it that I fell in love with it. And once I got into optometry school, like from day one, like it was great. And what really pushed me over the edge was probably the last year, my last externship. It was just a complete eye-opening experience where if I thought I'd loved it, that passion went exponentially higher. So I feel very blessed that I randomly picked this profession to a certain degree, and it ended up being something that I was this passionate
That's amazing. So, and I like that you worked at eye-opening experience into the verbiage eye-opening. That's pretty good. I see what you're doing there.
about.
So,
Yeah, that was an accident. Yeah.
so it's funny though. Like, I think there's something in here for the kids of all ages, meaning teenagers or 35-year-olds. Find what you're passionate about doing, and that can change over time, right? Or maybe you're bouncing around to different places and you're trying to figure out what that thing is, and then start. And then if it's not your thing, it's okay to change. Even if you put in a couple of years of school, or if you got an internship and realized this wasn't the thing, it's okay. Better to switch now than to wait 10 years and then switch, because now you're behind, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing worse than being stuck in a position for the rest of your life that you're not happy with. I mean, even if you make $1 million a year, right? And
Yeah.
there's plenty of people that there's examples of that. You know, they do really well financially, but they're not happy, right? And you can't replace that. So I would say, yeah, and the tricky part is at that age, if like, I think things are going to change 10 years from now compared to like when you might have a couple years on me, but still we're kind of the same age of when like, hey, you go to grade school, middle school, high school, college. Like that's just that's what's going to happen, right? And then
Yes.
grad school, maybe that may not be the pedigree what's going to happen in 10 years from now, right? And I think that dynamics going to shift. Um, and there's this fear factor of like, okay, well, I went to college and now I have to change a major, and nobody else is doing that. And I don't want to do it because none of my friends are doing it. My parents say don't do it. My friends' parents are saying that's going to do it because you're a failure because nobody else is doing it.
Mm.
Well, your happiness is probably more paramount than what they think of you. And if you can make, and here's a great example. My best friend at that time that was going the pharmacy route,
Yeah.
he didn't really love it. He was doing it for the exact same reason. Like, hey, okay, I just want that lifestyle. It's a decent income, but he didn't have a passion for it. Went to pharmacy school. First year, he's like, yo, I'm done. I'm dropping out. We all killed him because we were still in college. Like, what are you doing? You're gonna ruin your life. I mean, this is a 20-year-old scolding a 21-year-old. Like, we know any better, right?
Right, right.
That was all of us. And I'm sure his parents were very similar at the time. And he switches to something he's happy. I mean, he's doing financially 3x better than he ever would have. And
Wow.
he's much happier. But everybody doubted him. But
Yeah.
sometimes you have to follow that route. And I think I don't want to speak for him. I think he would have been okay of having less financial results, of being happier. But the fact that both of those things happened, I mean, just shows that was the correct result. And you know, of being boxed into these certain roles of how you're coming up is a big issue. And I think that dynamic is definitely going to change in the future, um, for kids coming into universities. I think so, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. So I think it relays follow your passion, not follow dollar signs.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think I do believe in some of this. I think is even some of it's the newer generation who is more concerned about passion and giving back to the world, and than they are about money. And I think part of that is even COVID, because during COVID we all realized it's like, wait a minute, oh, you got the fancy car, so what? Like it doesn't matter, and it's just not as and you saw a lot of people actually leave the workforce because they're like, I got enough money. I'm not working for, I don't care about the money anymore. And I kind of like staying at home and not driving an hour and a half each way to grind through some traffic to do a job for some person that I really don't like working for, that I never really cared about in the first place. Right.
Right. And I know a lot of us always hate on the younger generations. It's our right, right? Every older generation has the right to hate on the younger generation. It's just the way it goes. And as much as we do that, I think the point that you made of having that passion, this younger generation, I think that's really, I mean, I think that's a very admirable thing to see. Like they care about giving back more than just making sure that they're successful financially. There is a internal perspective of what's being fulfilled.
It's so true. Okay, so so you go out and you get this degree, and then did you immediately go out and say, "Well, I'm going to start a business, and it's going to be called Evolutionary Eye Care"? Or like, how did that all go?
Yeah, interesting enough. So our fourth year of optometry school, so this is now grad school. I went to the University of Texas, Austin. Come on, to give a shout out for that.
So sorry,
Yeah. Oh no, you went to OU?
my daughter goes to OU. I'm just giving you a hard time. I think
Oh,
Texas is a great
well,
school. So,
interview is over. But our fourth year of optometry school, a friend of mine, there's actually four of us that we had this business idea at that time, still young, stupid kids, but at least we're thinking about it of, hey, we want to open a practice, a private practice. And what ended up happening, it was just me and my now current partner. So two of them fell out, and then us two kind of went forward with it. And once we figured out it was going to be us two, we wanted some experience. We didn't want to come in right away and we wanted some experience practicing. And he's a New Yorker, Dr. David Chow. That's my friend. So he went back to New York, practiced for a while. I was in San Antonio and had a lot of different experiences. I worked in a rural town for a year. I worked in an ophthalmology optometry practice for 2 years. Great experiences all around, just gaining that medical knowledge as we're kind of gaining some business knowledge, because you don't really get that in medical school. You don't really get that in optometry school to the degree that you need. A lot of people will say who devise the curriculum say, yeah, you get it. We had this class. It's like, not to the degree that you need. So we're trying to learn as much as we can on the business side while we're still working, creating capital to make sure we have the amount of money that we need to at least, where a bank wouldn't turn us down. Remember, this is back in pre-2020. This has got to be 2013 to 2016.
okay.
So our plan was we'll work for 5 years, each of us, and then we're going to move back to Houston. That's where I'm from. That's where we both went to school. And even though he's a New Yorker, Dr. Chow did want to go back to Houston. Just he felt that city was the place to go. That 5-year plan turned into a 3-year.
Wow.
He moved back a little bit earlier than me. I was still in San Antonio, and we started moving pretty quickly. And it got to the point where I couldn't do those things remotely. Like we're breaking ground. I mean, we're like, I can't do these via emails. Like I have to be there in person. So I finally moved back. We were doing relief work, basically working for other practices while the business is being built. And once it was built, the good thing for us is that there was two of us. So a lot of private practice owners, when they open solo, it's very hard to pay the bills. I mean, personal bills.
Yes.
Outside of business bills, because having this practice, you're not making any money at the time, right? You're in debt for however long it's going to be. Luckily we had each other. So you would work there 3 days a week. I'd work there 3 days a week. We could do relief work. So we'd have income coming in to pay our own rent, mortgage, pay our student loans, etc. And actually, to be honest, both of us were working 7 days a week for about 5 years. And I don't mean working 7 days a week of like taking care of the practice. If you're a business owner, you're always working 7 days a week, right?
Yes. Right.
I mean clinic care. I mean clinic care for that long, just so that there was money to make sure that we can cover our loan payments, our rent payments. We can cover payroll. We could cover any unexpected expenses. We got broken into twice within the first 6 months of our opening our practice. So you can imagine how devastating that is. And unexpected expense, right? And a lot of people don't know that, hey, you have to budget unexpected expenses. Like that's a real thing. And we didn't know that. So that was an on the fly lesson. But I think us leaning on each other helped a lot. I think there's two of us helped a lot. I think our work ethic helped a lot, that we're willing to work that much to do what we needed to do, helped out a lot. And then from there, we can get into it. It expanded because of a couple of different reasons.
Okay, so that's awesome. So first of all, I love that you guys said, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're not gonna try to do this right away. We're gonna go make some money, get really good at our trade and learn the business side as much as we can, build up a little nest egg, and then we'll start it together. I also think this kind of blows my mind. I mean, first of all, you guys clearly are good friends and you agreed you had this pact to do
I
this.
will say this. Another thing that really helped us being a partnership, we were not good friends.
Oh, really? Interesting. Oh, tell me about
That
that.
was very, that was very crucial. So we went to school together, and within my classmates at the University of Houston College of Optometry, we probably talked to each other the most. But he's not my best friend. I'm not his best friend. Okay. Now, obviously, we've gotten closer over the years, but I'm saying at the time when this happened,
Yeah.
we were very close within our optometry school circle. But my closest friends, I mean, he's not in my top five. I'm not in his top. That's very helpful because when we decided to move forward with the business, we approached it very business-like. It
Love
wasn't
it.
like, oh, hey, like, hey, we know each other. We'll be fine. Like, no, no, no. We spend, oh my God. At a time we had no money, the amount of money we spent on lawyers to drop up these contracts and everything, it was ridiculous. But we knew we wanted to be that.
Yes.
We wanted to do it the right way because we saw too many stories of people, best friends going in together. Oh, I love you, and then it all falls apart. So, we didn't want to ruin the friendship we had, but it wasn't like I wouldn't lose my best friend, right? If it broke up, we were both going to be okay. We have our best friend. Okay.
I love
Number
that. That's brilliant. I hear it all the time. And a lot of times they are really good friends and they get into business, but invariably something happens. And if you don't have an agreement up front and you don't have a prenup,
yeah,
um, that's an issue. So like you have to, and so smartly, even though you didn't really have much money, you came up with all the guidelines before you started. Like that, it had to seem like a crazy investment at the time, but how brilliant was that?
I think we knew that from the beginning because we saw some of the horror stories, and because we didn't have that relationship of being the best friend. We were comfortable doing it that way. Like we knew, like, hey, listen, we like each other, we're friends, but this is a business venture, and we can do that. If it was my best friend for 20 years, it might come off a different way. So when we approach each other in a business relationship way to do this venture, it was amicable to both parties. I think that helped. Now, obviously, that we've been in business now over a decade, so we're much closer now than before. But still, even to this day, I don't. You wouldn't call me his best friend. I wouldn't call him my best friend. We're obviously much closer. I mean, for God's sake, we probably talk to each other more than our own lives. You know what I mean? Like it's the nature of the business. But we have our separate lives outside of it, and that was imperative, in my opinion, of
Mm.
making a partnership successful. And if I had any advice for people that go into business together, I would take that advice of like maybe don't consider your best friend as the best business partner. I just seen it gone wrong too many times,
Yeah.
and the fact of how well we've done not going that route, even though we're friends, helped. Um, and the other caveat is like if you go in with like your spouse, well, whole other issue going with that. So,
Yeah. And I've got, some
and
great,
like you start a small business, like think about it. Like you're in the beginning, you're losing money, and when
yeah.
money comes in the issue of relationships, it usually doesn't end well. If because imagine having like an issue where like, well, we lost $10,000. Yeah, but you're my boy. You should have done this, or like that shouldn't come into the discussion. Like when you can say, well, we didn't make the money that we wanted to because we didn't do these specific items. That's a much more cordial conversation.
Well, it's great that you say that because I found that with business partners, whether they be friends or whether they be spouses, it's like, okay, we have to run this like a business. So you know what? If we're spouses, it doesn't matter. We're still having a staff meeting, and we're going to discuss our business stuff at the staff meeting. And then when we're done with our business day, as much as we can, we're going to talk about our kids. We're going to talk about television shows. We're going to hang out because now we're spouses and yeah, we're business partners, but right now we're spouses. We're going to just talk about other stuff and keep those separate as much as you can. And then the other thing I'll say with spouses or business partners or both, we have to be aligned on what success looks like too. So getting two business partners to agree on what that success looks like 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years from now is super important, because if we're not aligned on that, then we're going to have dissonance in the relationship for a lot of different reasons. Do you agree
That's a
with
good.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of want to tackle that second point you made, because that was something we didn't realize of what success looks like, and it was how naive we were as young business owners. Of we didn't know of what to look for. And I remember having this conversation of, we were thinking like, hey, why are we not at this point, say year 3? Let's give you an example. Why are we not getting what we expect? And I remember me and my partner were talking. We're like, well, we're grossing this. Why aren't we making? And we had no idea what the industry average of net was. Like if you make $500,000, what should your net be? If you make $1 million, what should your net be? So I remember thinking it so vividly to this day. And like at that point, it was $500,000, and we're like, why are we making $500,000 and not taking home $500,000? Like I was like, well, there's a big reason why. Like expenses. Like there's a real threshold of what the net should be. But it was so eye-opening of like, we don't get that training. We're not business people. We're trained to be doctors. Which rightfully so. Get a little bit of it, because the worst thing you want to do is send a doctor out into the world that's not a good doctor. If you send a doctor out in the world that's a terrible business person, great. They'll be fine. They'll probably be a really great doctor. Okay.
Yes.
But, that was very eye-opening of like, we really don't know what we're doing. And as much as we did so much research, so much training of thinking we're ready, like, oh, we're gonna be so much better than everybody else. Like all these roadblocks that everybody goes through, we're not gonna go through that, because we're spending the time now, research it and do it. We went through every single hurdle, every single roadblock. You won't. It's just like anything else. You won't know till you go through it.
Yeah, isn't that funny? You got to start, but congrats for doing the research, because like that, you saved a bunch of stupid tax by doing the research, but you still have to pay the stupid tax.
You got to pay the stupid tax,
right? Yep. It's part of the deal.
Now, the other thing I want to go back to is about the like when there's husband and wives or spouses that go into business. Like I've seen all the horror stories. Most of them are bad, but don't get me wrong, there are some that are successful. Actually, a good friend of mine, both of them, husband and wife, both good friends of mine, that do very, very well. And it was to your point of how they went into it. So, each case is specific of, well, how do you go into the business modality? Like, are you both business oriented? Are you both approaching it the way that you mentioned? And are you tackling problems the same way as a business problem and not a personal problem? And then when you get home, those don't incorporate in each. So it was funny because my wife was mentioning at one point, and she has a great job with PepsiCo. She was like, "Hey, what if I worked for your company, as your business manager?" I was like, "Oh, that's not gonna work. Oh, that's not happening." And she's like, "Well, why not?" I was like, "All right, well, let me ask you this: what if I come in one day and I fire you?" She's like, "I'm not accepting that." I'm like, okay, name me a business where the owner can't fire the manager. So, it was an easy conversation.
It's so true. I think the other thing is having specific roles in your business. Like I've had so many business owners that have they have complementary talents And so they kind of know their role in the business, and one might be good at the back end and one might be good in the front end, for instance. And so they can use their strengths and kind of complement each other's weaknesses. And I feel like that's a really good, it's good to have the self-awareness to be able to do that, but then to implement that so that you're doing what you love and you're doing what you're good at makes a lot of sense. And having defined roles in your business as partnership has to be important. How did you tackle that one?
To be honest, I wish I had a great answer to that. We fell into it.
Okay.
Both thought we could do both. I should say both. We both thought that we could do everything. Remember, we're dumb young kids. We were in our 20s at the time. And we just fell into the roles that we felt comfortable. So I was the numbers guy, probably my background in engineering for whatever reason. So I tracked all of our metrics. I track, how financing is going, how ROI is going, how equipment purchase is going. I just tracked all that stuff. How we're going to move forward on expanding, all those things. He's a great people's person. So employees, hiring new staff, payroll, scheduling, that's what he kind of fell into. We just fell into those roles because I think our talents dictated that over experience. Because we would both do everything. And then it didn't take long. I would say 18 months. We were like, okay, yep, this is where we need to go. So I remember when, and he is really great with our team and hiring new employees. So we used to, get employees applications, and we'd interview them, and he'd do the first interview, I'd do the second interview, and then we decide to get. And at one point, I was like, hey, why don't you do all the first interviews? Whoever makes it, send it in my way, and then I'll send whoever I think is great after that. And then we'll decide to get. So he'll send me a couple, and I'll be like, none of them were really great. And he's like, serious? That took me 6 months to get you those 20 people. You don't want any of them? Like that, he was so pissed at me. And I was like, because, I didn't go through the process that he went through, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, they weren't that great to me. So I told him, I was like, listen, you're the one going through this. You're the one seeing what's going on. And if you see potential, and I admitted to him, he's definitely more the people person. He can see talent a little bit better than I can. And I was like, listen, worst case, we can always fire them. We can always let them go. And we have a probation period anyway. Like, if you feel confident, you're doing most of the leg. Why have this extra step of my approval?
Yes.
See that? Like, if you feel confident enough and you're the one doing the legwork, do it. So I would say probably about 2 years ago, I was like, yeah, he doesn't give me any feedback on new hires. He doesn't. And then we'll see what happens after it. And it's worked well. And I think it was the right decision because that was his personality characteristic. And I realized that talent that he had. And we knew that, worst case scenario, fine, we let them go. But why are we going through all this?
Yes.
And with business expansion and business equipment purchases, he knows that, hey, that's where I spend my day to day.
Yes. I mean, it's really sort with your strengths, but it also takes a good amount of trust that you build up over time to be able to do that. It also takes to be able to do that takes ego check as well. It's like, hey, I own the business, I own half the business. Yeah, so what? You know how to hire people. I know how to buy stuff. I do the research. Let's go do our things, and we'll cut our time in half. You get better leverage that way.
You're right. And the biggest thing to combat both of those is time. You mentioned you need to build trust, you need time. To calm your ego takes time. You're very egotistical. To be honest, you can be egotistical as a 26-year-old and as a 46-year-old. That's true.
Sure.
But you learn a little bit more about your ego because you make mistakes. Like you're not making a lot of mistakes yet at 26. And then when you get into like, oh, all right, I'm probably not as smart as I thought I was. And that's a humbling thing. And I think we were both accepting.
Yeah, I was really smart when I was in college and then post-college in my early 20s. And then I continued to get dumber every year. And I
Well, hey, I thought I was a genius in high school. I went to this high school college program. So it was in 10th grade. So you go basically into college, 10th grade, a sophomore after your sophomore year of high school. And there was the math and science program I was telling you.
wow.
And it was the best and brightest in Texas. So to even be admitted is amazing. And you get humbled there because you see some amazing people. Right? You think you're the best in your school. And I went to Houston, so which is a big city. So
Yeah.
like you're come from a rural city. I'm like, okay, who cares? But you do get humbled to a degree of what the talent out there is. So that's one thing. Then you get into college, and you get humbled more because you're not dealing with 100 people. You're dealing with 10,000 people. And then as you get into your profession, you realize, and I think this was the switch. It's not your intelligence is not what you do on a test score. No, it's not, and I'm dating myself, Scantron, right? It's not how you did on your Scantron. Because I did really well on tests. I did really well on Scantron. I could do good on an SAT. I could do really well on a standardized test. Just memorizing, repeat it, whatever. How do you adapt? Like when you're in the real world and you're doing a business, how do you critically think? How do you take in information and adapt to that? I was not prepared for that, and I was not good at it, to be honest. And to realize that, I think, is important.
I think it's brilliant. Okay, so I want to ask you one more question about the beginning and then we'll move on. So you actually, I'm guessing here, you invested in real estate from the start and bought a piece of land and built a
No,
or
no,
no?
not from the start. No, we
Okay.
did that recently.
Okay. Well, talk to me about that because I think it's so interesting and I think it's so smart. And I'll give you my example. In California, when I was there, I lived all over the country. In California, I knew a lot of car dealers, and they made a lot of money selling cars and servicing cars. But the real money was made in the real estate. The person that bought the real estate, that was the car dealer that owned 5 or 6 other pieces of real estate that he rented to the other car dealers that were his competitors. That's the guy that was really making the bucks. So
Oh,
I say, the investment in the real estate can be just as lucrative as the actual practice. So tell me about how your strategy, how did you get there?
I will say, I wish we were that smart. It wasn't because of that. You can edit out if you want to. I think it's important because people need to realize. So when you come into business and you're opening whatever business it is, going to a real estate space, you think like, oh, well, this is the rent, this is what I have to pay, this is the loan amount, everything's negotiable. Absolutely everything is negotiable. Okay. And that's what successful business owners, billionaires, and real estate owners thrive on. They know everything's is absolutely negotiable. They'll come back to you to negotiate. They won't
Yeah.
hesitate.
Yeah.
So if you can negotiate, you can realize everything's negotiable. Worst case, you're where you're at. Great. Best case, you might save some money. I would negotiate everything. That was probably the best lesson I've ever learned.
I
Being
like
able to,
that.
everything is negotiable, and don't think, oh well, that's what the price is, and oh well, this is a big company and I can't do anything. No, you can because they won't hesitate to come to you to negotiate,
Sure.
right? So and that's a big company. Cameron is a very very big company, and they are negotiable. If you have enough leverage, they'll negotiate with you.
Sure.
So
I mean,
um,
it's the idea
we
of
were we were
real
just tied with that relationship, and our contract was coming up, and we realized the financial incentive doing it. We would have done that initially, the capital.
yeah.
You're a young, Tom's just coming out. We can't afford to buy $1 million, $1 million building, whatever it is. We don't. There's nothing we can do. We have to rent, and people know that we have to rent. We're
Yeah.
going to take advantage of
Gotcha.
that to a degree, but so what? You take that knowing you're going to take advantage of because you can at least start the business. Well, at the certain point when you get to certain annual revenue, well, you don't have to be taking advantage of it. You can exit that You can give them the counter offers and say, hey, I'm going to leave because I'm more valuable to you than you are to me now. And when you get into looking at the logistics of owning real estate, they'll never match that. Just never will. Never will. As much as whatever the loan amounts are. And this is a big project. It's going to be more valuable. So we knew, number one, we didn't want to work with that realtor anymore. Not realtor, I should say, the real estate company that's our landlord. We wanted a bigger space anyway. We wanted to get in the real estate space. So 3 things coming into play. And on top of that, most likely being more profitable in the long term, even with the initial investment. I think those things all. Now, the one thing you got to be comfortable with that, I mentioned my background, South Indian parents that don't really know how all this works. Like, hey, don't have any debt. You pay everything off, no, you're going to have a lot of debt. You got to be okay with multi-million-dollar debt, that's okay. That kind of debt is fine. If you're training from 1980s financial advice, yeah, that's not going to work because this is good debt that's going to be profitable, and you got to be comfortable.
No, that's good. So then let me ask you this. When did you decide that we are going to expand? Because I'm sure you had a great practice in one location, but when did you and your partner say, you know what, let's go bigger? And how do you make that jump?
That's a great question. That's probably the one I get the most. Because we had a great practice that was doing well, and just me and my partner, we probably could have just done that for the rest of our career. We've been fine, and just profitable as we are now, to be honest. Especially we do this real estate. So you have to understand of how our practice works. Most of our practice is referral based for specialty services. I won't get into the details of what it is, but keratoconus, specialty contact vision therapy. I know that's not what everybody in your audience knows, but we're a very specialized eye care clinic that does those things. Like if you come in for a regular eye care, I just want new glasses. Yeah, we can do it, but it's not the reason you're probably coming. You're likely referred to us for these services. And we're doing that in Sugar Land. So we're getting Rosenberg, Richmond, etc., Southwest Houston. We just need to be in other parts of Houston. That was the reason. Yeah. And we did Webster, which is like Clear Lake, Friendswood area first. Then we went to Central. And, luckily they've been growing as we needed them to be. But that was the reason of why we expanded. It wasn't even financial, to be honest. It was the feedback we had from our referring doctors. Like, if we need to help more patients, we need to be in other areas of Houston. And the next question I get is like, all right, so where's the next place? I'm done. Go on. It's every day like, oh, this broke, credit card machine's down, this person leaving. I mean, so the logistics that go into 3 is ridiculous. So if I have any other advice for entrepreneurs, if you want to go into expanding to multiple locations, don't do it. All right. Get your first one as big as you can, because the headaches aren't linear. They're not only exponential, what's higher than exponential? Like they're quantum, they talk about quantum, quantum physics,
But it's funny. I feel like I've ran into lately a lot of business owners that have expanded, and they said exactly what you said. We have 3 locations now, and we're making the same profit with the 3 locations as we did with the 1 location. So why am I doing this? Well, you can do it for the real estate game, but I think that the bigger question is, how do you scale if you choose to scale 2 more locations? How do you scale in the right way because you should get more profit if you have more exposure, right? So how do you replicate what you do without diluting your best talent or whatever, so you can actually bring more to the bottom line? Any thoughts on that, or any insights you've gotten thus far from
no, I do. I will say that we were not the best example. Like I said, this was not a business decision. This was a serving the community decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the reason we did. Now, obviously, going to impact our business. We'll obviously do better, but it's not the question that you're asking of the scale, right? Because we could have done it where we don't get those two locations and just expand our initial location. We probably done fine. We didn't have to deal with all the headaches. We maybe not the same revenue, but we could get close, and the profit will be close. Maybe not as whatever. But the decision was not a profit margin decision. It was a serving the community decision. But that's for our practice, because how our practice is built based on specialties and referrals. Now, with most other practices that do a lot of primary care that have multiple locations, they do very well on scale.
Yes.
They have implementations to make it scalable that is still profitable. And I have some insight on that because of what I learned from them. And I can't implement it all into my practice because I don't do what they do. Like my end goals are different than theirs. My business plan is different than theirs. Okay. Like they're doing primary care, so they come in, eye exam, eyeglasses, contact lenses, a couple maybe office visits for dry eye, glaucoma, whatever. But it's all about efficiency, lowering costs, and scaling that to location 2, 3, 4, and repeating.
Yeah, it's really it's leverage. It's doing more with the same or doing more with less, right? So you have your accounting function. Whether you have one location or 5 locations, the accounting function cost probably is about the same. Or insert.
Yeah, I would say and I can't speak for other businesses. I would say for optometry, I would say you figure that out for primary care, not my business, not my business model. But for optometry, I would say you figure it out by office 2 to 3, and then office 3 to 12. It's similar, but you got to figure out on those first 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
For mine, I was willing to lose a little bit on the 2 and 3 for the learning capacity because I had to hire associate doctors to do that also.
Yes.
And that's a big, when an eye doctor graduates, they can do primary care. They can't necessarily do what we do. There's a learning curve. And then you have to get respect of your colleague because of our referral base. It's a whole different business. So I won't even get into that because there's a lot that goes into it. You have to have a passion for it. There's so much. But for the scaling perspective you talk about, I would say 2 to 3, you can gain it. And then from there, you can expand it. But then you go from, I got what I need to do to reduce my expenses. I know what I need to do from training. I know what I need to do from who I'm looking for staff to get the right people in place for the right profit margins. And then,
yeah, then you can roll. Okay, I don't want to keep you too long, so I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions that I ask most of my folks that I.
Yeah. We'll close out on this.
Number one, biggest learning from your business experience, like something you're like that was a big aha moment for you that you would pass on for wisdom for other folks.
The negotiation tactic.
Okay.
I had no idea you can negotiate everything. Like, I mean, negotiate your rent from a landlord, negotiate the price of equipment, negotiate everything. Like, there's nothing that I don't negotiate anymore. Like, if somebody says, "Hey, this," I can't even think of like what would. Let me just ask you, what do you think is like non-negotiable? Like, if you came into not even business-wise, anything, what do you think is non-negotiable? Like, oh, well, this is the price, obviously.
I don't know. I guess the only thing I would say is maybe insurance. Now you can shop insurance, but you can negotiate insurance. Yeah.
No, you can negotiate it because you say, "Hey, well, I think it should be this reason of this rate for this many terms," and worst case, you say no, and they'll negotiate it if you especially have an agent. The other thing is, I'll give this as an example. This is my funniest example about negotiating. my older brother, who I told you is a physician, and he does very well, but I still clown on him because he's a cheapo, because he has the South Indian, you know, in him as well. But this is many, many years ago. I think he was in med school at the time. He bought this huge foam bag, like a bean bag. It's humongous. Okay. And 4 or 5 years later, it broke. Like somebody punctured it or something happened. It broke. Okay. Bought it from Target. You walk into Target 4 or 5 years later, mind you. He said, "Hey, this beanbag broke. I want a refund." And they're like, "You have a receipt?" Like, "No, I don't have a receipt." "When was it bought?" I don't know. "So what do you want to do?" I was like, "I want a refund." Just
You got
there,
no receipt.
he
You don't know
knew
what you
how ridiculous he sounded, but he just stood there and stated what he wanted to state, and he got a partial refund from it.
want. That's awesome.
I mean, like that's I think there's so much in how business works that's still perception related. Now, I think a lot of that will go away, to be honest. In 20 years, as AI takes over, like you won't have that personal connection. But imagine, hey, me and you coming to Target, like, "Hey, I got this beanbag I bought 20 years ago." Somebody yells, like, "Get the hell out of here." Like, what do you think, right? But he comes in, he's like, complete stone face, like, "Yeah, yeah, I got it 20 years ago. So what?"
I'm
Like,
gonna need a refund for this thing. Yeah, yeah.
how you present yourself is a real thing. And I think you should take advantage of that.
I love it. That's brilliant advice. I mean, I've always heard, and I love the idea of you don't, and I'll use real estate. You don't make money when you sell real estate. You make money when you buy it. So, and I've done pretty well, like negotiating as we moved around the country. Homes, like, okay, so we're gonna come in and we're gonna pick our top two homes. We're gonna be in the market for 2 days, and we're gonna make an offer on the first one. And if we don't like how it's going, we're gonna ditch that one and make an offer on the second one. We're gonna buy one in the next 2 days. Well, that adds a certain amount of pressure to the people that are selling, because they're like, holy crap. And I tell everybody up front, very transparent, you can take it or leave it. It doesn't matter, because we got another one in the queue. Either one's fine with us. Not my wife in most cases, like, no, I gotta have number one. But they don't know that, right? So there is that. So everything's negotiable. Okay.
I think that's the biggest thing with negotiations, especially with doctors who don't have experience with that. You have business experience, is you're dealing with industry who does have experience. And you think like, "Oh, I'm transparent with you, doc. Like, hey, this is what's happening." They're probably not being transparent. Even if they are being transparent, you're in a negotiation. What says you have to be transparent? So,
Yes, it's beautiful. Okay, last question. How do you keep your mindset right when things aren't going right? When your office got broke into twice in 6 months, how do you make it through that to get to the other side and keep going, and you're not making any money, you're working 7 days a week for 5 years? How do you keep that going? Any advice on that?
yeah. Number one, my partner helped a lot. I was going crazy, and we kind of tame each other. But there are two things that helped, and maybe it seems kind of cliche or whatever else, but when I opened my private practice, I reached out to a lot of mentors, and they said, "Hey, make sure you pick something that keeps you sane as you go through this, because you're going to go through some stuff." And they didn't use the word stuff. You're going to go through some stuff, so pick something. And I picked working out, going to the gym, fitness, because when you go through building a business, late nights, you can eat terrible, easy to gain 30 pounds in 3 months. It's very easy. So I concentrated to make sure that I wasn't going to obliterate my body. I made sure that I would always go to the gym. I would always do that. Number two, for two reasons. Number one, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't, going to be healthy. Like, if I'm going to go through this, number one, I'm a physician. Like, I should be physically okay. But also, I need the energy. Like, if you're not physically fit, you can't be as physically energetic as you could be. Um, and that gave me the positive energy I need. That helped it a lot. So when people tell me like, "Hey, what's the one thing you're gonna not sacrifice?" I'm not sacrificing that. My gym time, I'm not sacrificing. So that made me in the correct mind state. And that could be whatever, whether you're doing yoga, whether you're doing weightlifting, whether you're doing cardio, whatever it is that you're doing. That portion, I think, is very, very. I did some meditating. That was probably year 2. That helped. A conscious effort to realize that the universe is not just your business. It's not just your problems. And being appreciative of the things that you have. Like even in the beginning, like, hey, it might be in debt, not making any money, and I have a struggle coming up that I have to work so hard for. I'm eating today. I have a family that loves me. There sometimes we don't take into effect all the things that we have, focus on things that we don't, even when times are tough. So I think those 2 things helped out.
I love that. An attitude of gratitude makes all the difference. If you see things with a thankful heart, and that's the way you go through life, man, it makes all the difference. It makes everything around, lemonade instead of lemons. So that's a great mindset. I appreciate that. And then I love that you have a non-negotiable. I will be doing this, whatever exercise routine, whatever that is, working out forever, X amount of minutes a day, regardless. And knowing that it actually helps you, that getaway actually is worth the time investment from physical point of view, and also from a mental point of view. Like, that's brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's been one of the smartest decisions, and not the smartest guy in the world, but I think that was one of the smartest decisions I made. Is let's say make a little extra in revenue, and I'm in now hypertension and diabetes, and all the other things. Like, what was it all worth for?
Yeah, you're going to give the time back in the doctor's office in the hospital anyway. Dr. Pillai, this is great. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for your honest review, and I've thoroughly enjoyed our time together. And good luck on just rocking evolutionary eye care and taking it to the next level. Congrats on what you done.
Thank you so much. Really great conversation. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.